Hi, I'm Bonnie Serratore, and I want to share my journey as well as what the journey has done for others. Okay, so this is about sexual trauma, sexual abuse. And for me, the sexual abuse in my life began when I was probably I'm thinking about 3.5 years old, which is pretty young. And the intensity of all of that was quite traumatizing. So basically, I had a grandfather. He was not a blood grandfather. He was like a step grandfather, and an uncle and another uncle. Okay, so in my early life, starting at about 3.5, somewhere in there, sexual abuse began to happen. Again, not just with one person. Started off with the two different ones, and then another one started happening a little bit later in my life. And in that kind of abuse, the grandfather, he lived at the house with us, and my grandmother basically, she knew what was up because he did this to her children, to her daughters, okay? And she would, be in the living room watching TV, and I had to share the room with her and him. And I remember like not wanting to go to bed, or I'd go to bed and I'd be trying to pretend like I was asleep. But, he'd be in there and he had plenty of time because she wasn't coming for a very long time, coming to bed. And, he would basically get me on, with him and do all kinds of different things and have me do things that were really inappropriate, things that a little child should never have to be experiencing. Okay. So when I also had the sexual trauma coming from, it was my grandmother's brother. So he was an uncle, okay, a great uncle, whatever you call it. Not great uncle, but her brother, okay? So, it was like having two people literally sexually abusing me. And what happened in my life and my world is I began to, just shut down. I started to feel like a lot of insecurities, a lot of feelings like I'm not safe, can't tell anyone, because that's what happens. The perpetrators will often tell you, don't tell anybody. I just remember too that what happened is it caused feeling, especially as I started getting older and you start maturing, you start going into teenage years, all your hormones are happening and just life is happening. So I remember just feeling so much shame, like just shame, just overwhelming shame, okay? And just even being in school, it's like when you've had this kind of trauma, it feels like, people can see what's happening, and for me, it was like I felt dirty, like I just felt this bad, dirty feeling, disgusting feeling, repulsed feeling, and feeling like just the feeling of shame was just so overwhelming. It affected every aspect of my life. In school I couldn't even raise my hand to answer questions, not that I had the answers. It affected my, being in school. It affected my connections with other people. I mean, how can you really share who you are? How can you just be yourself when you're just feeling your whole being, everything in you just feels like shame? Okay. So as I started growing up and getting involved as you become a teenager and getting involved with sexuality, sexual things of that nature. And for me, sexuality began kind of early because the door was already opened, and even still there was still that place where I never felt free. I never felt open, you know what I mean? It was like this feeling of just always inhibited, and no matter what, you just can't open to anything or anyone. You can't be free on any level. Okay, so it's like this total shutdown, and then even like growing up, and then also having a boyfriend and getting married. I got married really young. I got married at 16, and even being married, being intimate, being sexual, there was always a bad feeling, like a seriously bad feeling, It's just like, how can you have sex with somebody? How can you make love and feel good when you got all this shame inside? So it was like debilitating, shut down, debilitating. feel, you have an orgasm and you just feel disgusted and just sick inside. That's what it was like for me. And but I want to back up a little bit. So when I was like 8 years old, this is for real, 8 years old, I was literally trying to die. Okay. I actually thought that I could will myself to die. So I would lay on the floor in my room and, just try to hold that feeling like, okay, let this body die. I just want to die. And I truly thought I could do it. I really did. But clearly that it didn't happen, and I was kind of shocked. And but also it wasn't just that. It was like I know if I tell you the real truth, which I don't really want to do, but I'm going to, it's like the suicidal thing was my entire life. It never went away. I even after I had kids and even they're growing up and even in the last several years, like even now, probably even last year, I was still having, so thoughts of like, I just, don't want to be here anymore, better leave. I don't need to be here. I'm done. Did everything I should have done, brought everything I brought, don't need to be here anymore. Okay. So those suicidal thoughts don't just go away, it's been a lot of unraveling. And in my life, as a kid growing up and having that feeling of just disgust and shame, and it's like you just fold in on yourself. There's just no freedom. It doesn't being around people. It's not that your mind is thinking thoughts, but the body is locked up. Okay, it's locked up. Can't even socialize. For me, it was like being in the world was painful. What I ended up doing is I ended up isolating. I moved into the mountains when I was 19 years old. 4 years in the mountains, hardly ever seen another human being. I did it again in, 2006, went into the desert, 4 years. It's all connected, okay? So what happened for me was by going through, the painful emotions, by going through, the memories of the violations and the disgust and, the putrid feelings, all these emotions, it was by going through them, and that began to create the unraveling. So even though there was the thoughts of not wanting to be here for the most of my life, that wasn't all tied into the sexual abuse, but the sexual abuse really created the shame. It created where I just couldn't be in the world. I couldn't be around people. I couldn't socialize. I couldn't even talk. Okay. You know, and it was just like really painful. It's like a really painful experience and feelings like not belonging and not feeling a part of anything ever, part of the world, part of, community, anything, And it wasn't that people didn't care and didn't like me. They did, but it was me. It was inside of me. Okay. And this is what we live with. People that have been sexually abused or abused in any way, you're going to make it about you. You don't feel good inside. Okay. And what happened though was as I began to clear and unravel my own healing, um, in 1980, it was 1984, that I really started doing other things like, the psychic energy, the developing my psychic abilities, tracking energies, things of that nature. And then it was 1986, really where I claim it as that's where I really began working professionally because that's when I started charging money for what I did. Okay. Prior to that, I just did things, lots of different things for free. So I started creating what's called, well, back then they were called core emotional clearing, core emotional breakthrough, that type of thing. I had a couple of different names over the years, but basically what happened in these workshops, people would come in, have sexual abuse, and I knew how to unravel energy. I knew how to heal emotional energy. And being sexually abused is no different. It's still an emotional energy that's lodged in the subconscious. So in the workshops, what would happen is, I mean, I always trusted the knowing, so I would get the knowing. And I knew that it wasn't about people having an experience where, they're thinking about or they're going through an experience where they're being activated in the trauma. It wasn't about the fighting against, it was about the surrendering to what it really felt like. And this is the key. This is what I discovered, okay? So what I would do is I would have a perpetrator, violator. So let's just say that we have a woman and she's been violated, sexual abuse. So I would have a man hold the energy of the abuser because we can do that. What we do is we tune into the perpetrators and we can start taking on that energy and becoming that. Okay. So what would happen is I would have the woman, lay down and then have the abuser come on top. Okay. And immediately they want to fight. They want to resist. They want to fight against it, push it away, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what I did is I showed them, okay, just soften your body. You have to know what this is, what it feels like. That's the way we go through things. So basically, the perpetrator would be on top, holding that energy. The woman, rather than fighting against, was the surrender to the emotions. So she would start to just let herself go into what it felt like, there'd be a lot of emotion. I would stay right there with her, walking her through it, talking her through it, helping her to stay present, stay right there. And all these emotions would start to come to the surface. I could also track and watch the subconscious, and I would give different words, different keywords that would help her to go even deeper into the feelings and the emotions. Okay. That's what I did in the beginning, early stages of, when I had the Renaissance Center. So 13 years, we did a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of unraveling. Okay. And for me now, it's like I've taken it to another level. So back then, it was really all the emotions, going through the emotions, okay? And then after I went into the desert in 2006 for 4 years, I started understanding differently. I started seeing and sensing it isn't just the emotion, you have to get all the energies, you have to get all the interferences. That means the discarnates, that means the perpetrator's emotional energy, the perpetrator's soul frequency, anything that's in there that is not of the person but's coming from the sexual trauma. You have to unravel and clear all of that. So then I began to teach not only the emotional piece of that, but the unraveling of it at a much different, deeper, profound level. What that means is not only are they going through the emotion, okay, but they're also getting cleared. So teaching people that, okay, we start clearing out all the discarnates that were sexually abused, because remember, anytime you have an angst, a wounding, discarnates are going to attach to that wounding. Okay, they're going to come in. Everybody's got discarnates in them, unfortunately, but it's true. So we have to release the discarnates that were, victims to sexual abuse. Okay. We also have to dislodge and release and clear, remove discarnates that are abusers. Okay, because again, you're going to get that energy, the abused energy, you're going to attract abusers and victims. Okay, so you clear that out. You have to, and also you have to clear out the emotion of the perpetrator. Okay, the emotional energy of the perpetrator. Okay, so you have to clear that energy out. Now, sometimes there's actually fragments, pieces, essence, soul pieces of the perpetrator. You have to get all that out. Okay, and then there's beliefs and conclusions. Okay, so you start releasing all those beliefs and conclusions, and then too, even though the person is going through the emotion, we still need to clear out the trauma. Okay, there's an actual trauma, there's a frequency of trauma that has to be cleared out. So you start releasing and clearing out the trauma. Okay, there's also going to be emotions that we need to spin out and clear out as well. So you get the trauma frequency, you get the emotional frequency, and then there's also beliefs that start to form and happen. So we have to start releasing the beliefs of the victim. Okay. And as we're, releasing those beliefs, because what happens is when you're being violated, you can start spinning things and it can, things such as, oh, it's my fault. What did I do? Or there's something wrong with me. I'm bad. Why is this happening? We can start to feel as though we've been forsaken, okay? Like nobody cares, nobody sees, okay? And then there's these emotions like somebody do something, somebody save me. People, there's so many emotions that occur in sexual abuse. And we don't know what that is until, we start going in and unraveling. So, in the training process, teaching people how to do the work, we have to stay very neutral because what happens is when you're seeing somebody going through really intense emotions, if you're not clear, you're going to have emotional reactions as well. And most of humanity is not clear. Even, healers, why they get into healing? Because they got, emotional wounding. So teaching people how to stay neutral, and knowing if you get activated, that you've got something to work on and but put it aside. Okay. Stay conscious, present, available right here with the client or, the person that we're helping. So it's a journey of learning how to be present with people, how to stay neutral, how to stay, conscious and present, no judgments, no fault finding, but totally here. But basically, what's happening is the person's literally going through the traumas and we're clearing the energies, okay? So clearing the energies that are presenting, that are getting activated in that experience, because it's as though it's happening for real again, okay? Everything comes up, everything gets lit up, and we have to unravel it. So we start releasing all the frequencies, all of the energies that we're finding inside of the client, okay, the victim. And it can happen, a lot of people that get violated, it often can happen really young and their life starts early. And other people, sometimes it's later. Sometimes it's a rape, okay, being raped. Sometimes it's molestation. Sometimes it's by people that you know. So each one is going to be a little bit different. The experience of someone when it's your family, a family member doing that, or it's a friend or a complete stranger, the energy is a little bit different. Okay. But no matter what, you're going to be traumatized. Okay. There's a loss of innocence that has to be processed. I remember that. I remember grieving that lot that, it was against my will. I had no say in my own life and, my own body. So my innocence was taken away. My purity was taken away. I had no say in it. So again, there's different pieces of the grieving. There's different emotions that are created through this kind of abuse. So you got to clean it up. So basically what happens is in that unraveling, in the clearing and the healing, as we're clearing out all these energies, it's not going to be done in one session. I think it's important for people to understand this. It's a little bit of a journey, but each time, you start unraveling different pieces of it, different energies, different emotions. Every time that things are cleared and lifted, the body gets freer and lighter, and you land more deeply in the body. Okay, what often happens too is you leave your body. A lot of people leave the body and never come back in. Okay, sometimes parts of us come back in, but oftentimes, we're out. And when you're not in your body, how do you fully function? Okay, you can't. Okay, so what happens is as we're unraveling the emotional piece, okay, all those painful feelings, there's going to be like that disgust and shame and the horrible, bad feelings that people have been violated in this way. We're releasing them, okay, clearing and releasing. As those energies get cleared and released, think about this, okay? It's a trauma, it's an emotion based on being violated, okay? When those energies are lifted up and out, those feelings no longer exist, okay? So what happens ultimately when we've literally gotten the different pieces, all the different components of that, the person is changed from within. You're coming back to original you, okay? Who you were prior to being violated, okay? So as these energy frequencies are being released and cleared out, what happens is you start to release and no longer feeling shame around sexuality, having sex, being intimate, being married and being able to be open with your wife or husband, okay? Being able to just be yourself, being able to say what you want or you don't want. So what happens is that locked up feeling, where you get locked up, you're shut down. You're frozen. You can't move, okay? You've been violated, okay? You're frozen. So as we release and clear and heal these emotions, all that frozen feeling, that lockdown feeling, that feeling of shame, that feeling of, it's like that putrid kind of feeling, the disgust feeling, okay? It starts to unravel and get clear, and you begin to feel more happiness. You can feel your whole body, your whole being is freer. You can feel lighter within. And then ultimately, as all those energies are cleared out, yes, you will have memory unless you didn't have memory at all. But sometimes if you didn't have memory, those memories start to come back. Okay. But what happens though is, yeah, the memory's there, but there's no longer any charge in your body. There's no longer a zing. There's no longer a reaction. There's no longer an emotion that presents. You're free. Okay. So if you're free, what's that like? It affects your entire life. Every facet of your life is affected. Okay. You'll find yourself communicating more openly. You'll find that you're no longer holding back. You'll find, whoa, I'm not locked up. I'm not frozen. I'm not afraid. Oh, I'm not feeling like like I don't belong, like I'm not a part of the world. Whoa, whoa, I'm feeling like I am. I feel like I belong here. Whoa, oh, I feel some happiness inside. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Whoa, the thoughts of wanting to die, they're subsiding. Whoa, they're almost gone. Whoa, they are gone. Okay. So, it just depends on your experience, your journey. It's all personal for everyone. And as we unravel and clear, what's happening is you're not only clearing the energy of this lifetime, but here's the thing that people may not understand is we've had past lives of being violated. Okay. We've been the perpetrator and we've been the victim. All that energy doesn't get cleared out unless we've actually done something to do that. So everyone's got trauma from sexual abuse, whether it's in this lifetime or another. Okay. So that kind of abuse locks us down. Okay. We're never free. Okay. We have all these beliefs, feeling like there's something wrong with us and, no one likes us, whatever. It's such a severe trauma. And the good news is what we're also doing is we're ending future incarnations of having to do sexual abuse. That's the beauty of this work. So when we clear something and we no longer are feeling any shame or disgust, feeling like there's something wrong with us, we're forsaken, when all those kinds of feelings are gone, we're free. We're free from that experience. We don't have to recreate it again. I think what's important for you to understand is anytime that there's a trauma from sexual abuse, okay? I don't care if it's from past lives or this lifetime, if there's still any energy in there, you're going to recreate it. Okay, because it's about knowing, it's about the soul knowing itself in all ways. So the soul needs to know itself in this kind of experience of being sexually abused. Okay, when it knows it, by going through the emotions and then also by clearing out all the different frequencies of interferences, whether it's coming from external or there's other energies inside of us or other, frequencies that don't belong here. But by clearing all of this out, we are free from the traumas of sexual abuse. You get liberated. And then what happens? Okay, let's just say now either you're married or you've got a lover. Okay, what happens is you're no longer inhibited. Okay, you're now free to find out who you are sexually. What do you enjoy? What do you like? What do you like being, doing? What do you like experiencing? You're free. You can say, talk about it. You can share you. You can say whatever you are feeling freely. No inhibited, no locked up, no frozen. Okay? So it's like a freeing, it's liberating. And I think it's important too that you really get this. Like some people think, well, I never had sexual abuse in this lifetime, and maybe they didn't. But I guarantee you, every being has experienced it at some point in their soul's evolution. Okay? So even if you haven't had an experience in this lifetime, it's still in there and it's still affecting you. Okay. So by clearing out the past lives, clearing out the conclusions and the beliefs around it, one of the things that happens is, we aren't thinking clearly. It's an emotional reaction. Where's my mommy? Where's my daddy? Why aren't they protecting me? Why aren't they saving me? Do something. Okay. So carried over from past life. There's something there for everyone in that sexual abuse. Now, there can also be devices, implants, mechanisms. There can be different things that are lodged in the body because, a lot of people are being tracked by different beings, by the aliens, or also could be being tracked by our own our own world, meaning, military, government, one percenters. Okay. So they do things like implant us. They do things like put devices and mechanisms to kind of keep us in the same old, same old. They don't want people to be liberated and free. They want to be enslaved, keep us asleep, keep us in trauma, because then you're disempowered. In survival, if you're in survival, your whole life is about survival. It's not about anything else, okay? So there's all kinds of things that people don't know about that are affecting us, that are interfering with us, okay? You just don't know till you start getting in there and discovering. So the sexual abuse piece, once we start clearing that out, our lives change, okay? It's like we just feel so much more like we're here and we want to be here. I want to be here. Wow, I belong here. I'm a part of this world. Wow, what a concept. What a feeling. Okay? So unfortunately, those of us who've been had that kind of abuse in this lifetime, it's pretty intense, it's pretty alive in our subconscious, but you don't feel like you're a part of the world. You don't feel like you belong. I mean, for me, I isolated most of my life. When I was a kid, what I lived in my room. Think I lived in my room. Okay. All my life, as a kid growing up, I lived in my room. I didn't go out and play with kids. Occasionally I did, but most of the time I was in my room thinking about dying. Okay. Don't want to be here. I didn't realize it was connected to the abuse, but it was. That was a major piece of not wanting to be here. So, the good news is, which I think is really profound and important, is that we can get free from sexual abuse. We can get normal. Those people who, have had sexual abuse. We can feel happy. We can feel belonging. We can feel like we matter. We're important. We're loved. Okay. We can feel like we're no longer forsaken. I mean, how cool is that? Okay. For me, it's about liberation. It's about sharing the gift of who we are, which is ourselves uninhibited, and it's like the heart is wide open. We're experiencing unconditional love, not only for others, but we're feeling unconditional love for ourselves. And the thing about love, you're not going to feel it from somebody else. The feeling of love arises from within. Okay. So if we're locked up, that feeling of love, self-love, even loving others, it's like inhibited, it's blocked. Okay. But as we open and heal, then our hearts open and we begin to experience that kind of unconditional love. And then we're no longer afraid to be in the world. The thoughts of suicide, of not wanting to be here, start to subside, goes away. Okay. So oftentimes with the thoughts of suicide, it's not just the sexual abuse. For me, it was other pieces. Okay. But healing that sexual abuse liberated me from, the inhibitions of sexuality, of who I am, the ability to be free, to express, to open, enjoy, laugh, play, have fun sexually. I mean, how cool is that? Okay. I mean, we are sexual beings. This is how life keeps on going. Okay. Why do we need to have shame or feeling bad or, feeling there's something wrong around sexuality? It's natural and normal as eating. We need to eat to live. Well, we also need to procreate. We need to have intimacy, to be balanced humans. Okay, so if you got angst in your sexuality, it needs to be dealt with. Okay, it's not letting you be liberated. You're not free. You're bound up, frozen. I remember that frozen feeling. Oh man, I hated it. Just feel you're locked down. You can't even talk. Okay, you just major angst. Okay, so that's not happening anymore in my world. Okay, and it's not happening in the people's lives that I have helped and assisted in releasing and clearing and healing their wounding around sexual trauma. So, we come into the world, we forget everything, and then we try to, heal our lives so we can be happy, but we don't know what it is because it's in the subconscious. So sexual trauma, sexual abuse is a piece of the traumas that have happened for all of humanity, and it's something that needs to be cleaned up and healed. So basically, people, we want to be free. We want to be free from our own emotions. Okay. We want to open our hearts. We want to know love. We want to experience unconditional love. We want to share the gift of who we are, uninhibited, just being who we are. Okay. We're not evil. We're not bad. But when we have all these angsts, when we have all this trauma, we do mean and hurtful and cruel, evil things. So if it's not who we are, we want to be who we are. It's about connecting with our own self. It's about living from our heart, living from that light that we are, which is pure unconditional love and light. Creator incarnate. That's all there really is. So people, sexual trauma affects every facet of your life. It can severely traumatize you and lock you down. Anything you've ever wanted to do in the world, you'll be inhibited, you'll be blocked, okay? It's like you can't really be free because you always got something in there that's letting you know there's something wrong with you. All that shame, all that disgust, all those yucky feelings. It's like they don't just go away, okay? You have to take action. Something has to be done to clear these energies, okay? One of the ways that I did it was going through the emotions. But like I said, like when I really started to see even more interferences, the work changed drastically. The profound shifts that would happen for people in the workshops was, was so exciting. It was just so dramatic. Okay. People would be like, whoa, they have memory, but there's no more feeling bad. There's no shame. There's no guilt. There's no disgust. There's no, hating of the self. Okay. Hating self, hating other. That's another thing that happens. Okay. The relationship with the male female, it's like that hatred of other, it affects that as well. We're going to hate people. How can you not? If you have been abused by the opposite sex or even the same sex, you're going to hate them. Okay. So all that energy gets unraveled and cleared as well. I mean, there's so many emotions that I'm not really talking about because it's like I don't remember everything, but basically everything connected to what happens when you've been abused, all those emotions, once we start going through those emotions or start spinning them out, all the other pieces, the different kinds of emotions start to present. And as they present, we can clear them out for coming back to the workshop. Perpetrator, victim, violator, victim, okay? As energies are presenting, as they continue to surrender, more and more of the subconscious gets revealed. We can track it and sense it, and the victim is starting to feel it as well. They're starting to feel all these emotions and beliefs and conclusions that got anchored in through sexual abuse. Now they're becoming aware. They're waking up to all the traumas, all the thoughts and beliefs that came from sexually being abused. So as you got that victim, we're clearing out. They're going through, clear. When we're done, the person is shifted, changed, more authentically who they are. layers and layers and layers of all these emotional traumas are gone. Okay. And, training people how to do that, it's like my team, the people that have trained with me know how to do that. They know how to move energy. They know how to release and clear the sexual energy and all those traumas. Okay. If you got sexual trauma, you might want to heal it. Okay. It will change your life. I mean, what we're doing here, people, is to share the gift of who we are. That means open heart, light, sharing you, uninhibited, no thoughts, no emotional energy holding you back. Okay? Literally getting liberated. You're not thinking about it. Here's what's really cool. The more we're connected with our own light, the less we actually hurt people, the less we withhold love, which is a punishment, okay? The less we're in our thoughts, the less we're inhibited, the less we're, holding back, the less we're in our, in our wounding behaviors. We're like free, like a little kid almost. A little kid's not thinking about being judged or someone is going to judge them or make them wrong or punish them or hurt them. None of that's happening. We're not hurting anybody. We don't have a desire to cause harm or to punish. Okay? We're just light beings, sharing love and light. Okay? Laughing, playing, eat, drink, and be merry. Okay? And helping each other, having connections, having no more separation kind of thing. We create that separation. We create the feeling like you're all alone. Well, that all that ends. Everything shifts and changes. Your whole world changes. Okay, you're becoming more and more authentically who you are, and you are a part of the world. You're here. You wanted to be here. Okay, you agreed to be here. Okay, you just didn't remember. But as we clear and heal all these angst, all this emotional wounding, you start knowing it, feeling it, living it, belonging, mattering, important, and having fun. You guys, I have to tell you, I laugh every day, even though I'm by myself. Anything and everything cracks me up, okay? Laughter happens every day, many, 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 many times a day. It could be anything, okay? So, laughter is fun, it's healing. It lifts our spirits, it lifts us up, okay? And what's really cool is, the love we feel for other, the love and compassion and understanding that we have for other, it's like it's pretty awesome. It feels good, it feels happy, it feels joyful. So, anyone who's experienced sexual trauma, I just really encourage you to find help, and if you're someone who wants to be able to help people, we do have where we help you to learn how to unravel that kind of trauma inside of people. So, people, you don't have to suffer, but we do need each other, to end our own suffering. So, in that needing each other, it's like it brings us together. Same in you, same in me. We all want the same thing. We're all going to the same place. Okay. And it's about getting liberated from within. And that's what happens when you unravel sexual trauma at the level in which me and my team unravels. It changes people's lives and you become more and more authentically you, yourself, your true self, being happy, at peace, joy, loving being here, having fun. Okay, so as the world falls apart, you're okay. You're at peace. Okay, and there's an acceptance of the isness as it is. No more blame game. No more reactions. Just that place where you're just being who you are, liberated from within. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this. Hopefully, you've learned some things about, sexual trauma and that it can be healed and cleared.